Alright, hey guys, what I'm going to talk about today is it's a 1974 Plymouth Scamp, so it's a 70s car. And what we're discussing is about, most of these cars have amp meters, and an amp meter tells you how well your battery is charging by sensing the current. And usually what it does is the wires all run through the firewall and then into this meter, which is going to be this one right here, kind of hard to see, and then distributes it to the rest of the car. Well, that's okay, except you're running all the power from your alternator through that wire, and it's usually not a very big wire. I'm going to tell you it's like might be a 10 gauge. We'll see if we can look over here. But so what I do is with these older cars, without even really thinking too much about, okay, it's going to be this wire right here. And like you can say, that's probably a 10 gauge. It's not, maybe not even. So that is going to carry all your current from this alternator. And I believe that's a 63 amp alternator. Used to have, I forgot what Chrysler broke them down at. Maybe it's 30, 60, 100. But that's probably a 60. It's not 100. So you're probably already over the limit of that wire. And that wire's born in 1974, so it's kind of old. So what do we do real quick is we run a very large wire from the same lug over to the positive side of the battery. And this is a pretty good sized wire. Honestly, I forgot what gauge this is. It's a good high quality wire. I actually got it from an industrial place that I worked at. It was extra wire. And then you run that right over to your positive post. And that's all I do. I don't play with the wiring under the dash. I generally don't bypass the amp meter unless I think those wires are bad in that junction block. And right now, I don't think they are. But what's going to happen is all the current from the alternator, almost all the current, is almost always going to go to a larger wire, right? So not a very great connection. You can see I've got some kind of weird stuff there I need to fix. But anyway, this large wire is going to carry all the current. So problem with that is now the gauge, it doesn't really read any right anymore, because obviously it's not carrying the current anymore. So, but if you watch it, it'll go to discharge when you got your lights and your maybe your wipers on or your heater and put a big load on it at idle. But once it's charging, it'll ride in a certain place, usually about straight up, and you can kind of tell. It's not that hard to discern if you're discharging or not. And that was always the thing about amp meters people like to kind of tell you if your alternator is actually charging or if you're just running on the battery, which most of the time at idle you're running on the battery. These alternators don't charge much at idle. I don't think some of the newer guys don't really realize that, but you can see discharge at idle, and then once you rev up the motor, you know, it starts to pick up 10 amps or more. So you're only looking at an alternator puts out maybe 10-15 amps at like 1,000 RPM. So you got your headlights on, and you know these are old school headlights, no LED stuff. You're pulling 30 amps with the defroster on and all that stuff. So yeah, so that's my little fix for that. I'm gonna do one on my Scout. I do this on every car that has an amp meter. I definitely do it. I don't look at the wiring. I don't see if something's burned up. I just go ahead and do it. It's really simple. Wire's gotten expensive. I kind of get it. Like I said, it was a scrap drop I got for free. Probably could do a little bit better on the terminating, obviously, but you know that carries enough current. And then I also use this to check, see my alternator. You know, use the amp clamp, check to see what the alternator's doing. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So that goes for all your 70s vehicles. I think just about all the ones with amp meters is probably a really good idea, especially at this age. So yeah, that's my little tip for the day. Anyway, I'll put this one up and I'll do one with the Scout. Thanks, bye.